From Setback to a Prospect of Life. I began living in clandestinity in 1980, and it was a necessity rather than a free choice. At the time, it was quite difficult as police informers were springing up like mushrooms in autumn. It was thanks to a couple of these vile, disgusting people that I had to leave, not without problems, the house of my parents in the suburbs of the town where I was born. It was not at all the right moment. I had nowhere to go, and fear and diffidence reigned between friends and comrades. Many had already received a visit of the police and carabinieri. Many others had already ended up in jail, and those who were clean just feared for their own safety. And they were right. If you took someone on the run into your house, you risked being charged with armed gang and sentenced to many years in prison. I remember knocking on many comrades' doors and their astonishment and desperation. "We can't help you." The worst moment is when you find you don't have anywhere to go at night. Of course, you can't go to a hotel like a normal person. At first, I spent my days and nights on trains. I took the 17:30 Milan-Reggio Calabria, reached my destination 22 hours later, got off, and eventually took another train to Milan. I did that for days on end. It was hard, but at least I had a bed and a roof over my head, always moving. It wasn't a solution, however. It was just something temporary and dangerous, as police often check documents and stations, while waiting to find something better. After all, I was not prepared for being on the run. I had just got out of San Vittore prison, where I had been held only 6 months and released due to a legal time expiry. I secured a simple job as a representative for mechanical tools. I didn't earn much, and I used to give all my salary to my parents. So I couldn't save enough money to secure a calm period in clandestinity, which would have been the best thing to do at the time. It wasn't easy to find someone to rent you a flat or to find money to live on. The most difficult thing was not so much finding a suitable landlord, but the money to live as a wanted person, which costs a lot, believe me. A simple salary doesn't allow you to save enough to go to earth in a relaxed way when the time comes. One solution was to rob banks, but when I left home I had no weapons, no documents, and very little money in my pocket. You can't stay free for long under such conditions. I could just count on a few armed organizations that I knew. I was lucky, if I can say that. I knew a few comrades who would help me, but under conditions that I couldn't accept, like joining their organization as a militant, serving it. So after a short break to reflect, I kept on looking desperately for another solution. I didn't want to join any organization, as the one I had belonged to and created along with other comrades, the PAC, Armed Proletarians for Communism, had been dismantled following arrests and the individuation of most members. I didn't feel like joining another one. This situation of instability lasted 6 months. I often found accommodation in comrades' houses, but it only lasted 2 or 3 days. As a dear comrade of mine used to say, guests begin to stink after 3 days. So I went around, more and more desperately, looking for a hole to live in, and helped by old comrades as regards money. Finally, when I least expected it, I found the way not to have to depend on others. This is the essential point, not to depend on anything that is not your own will. You have to prepare to be clandestine before waging war on the system. I don't think I'm exaggerating. What I have described till now is obviously a particular situation, the condition of clandestinity as a setback that I had to face in a traumatic and sudden way. But the problem is wider if it is seen in all its aspects. To be compelled to be clandestine, to run off, to refuse to join given organizations whose ideology isn't your own, to look for independence as a way of staying in the struggle you believe in, to have money, to find the means to achieve all that. At first I found living in hiding quite hard and pointless as I was in a situation of total uncertainty. But in the long run I found the right balance, i.e., a small group of comrades who had the capacity to carry out big operations and launch strong attacks against the economic and political system with a level of perfection that resembled that of the big organizations. In the 80s and today, good results could be reached by small groups of 3 to 4 comrades who were prepared at a military level and had gathered essential information. Any project of attack would be impossible otherwise. When you live in clandestinity, be it out of choice or necessity, you are waging war on the state. If you simply walk in the street with a bashed-up identity card, you have to make a sudden choice if you are stopped, to run away, give yourself up, or react. You can imagine the consequences of the first two possibilities. As for the third, only your ability and experience can save you. It is not true that wanted people are alone. What is true is that they feel as if they are alone. It is just a temporary sensation, which disappears as soon as you have a document in your pocket that makes you feel safe. The world belongs to us. The advantage of our time is that you can always be well informed about anything, given that moving from one place to another is only a question of hours, providing you have a good document. The problem is to keep relationships going. It is sure that if you have a partner, there's only one choice. Either your partner comes with you or you must split up for good. It is impossible to see each other in secret from time to time. Apart from the work of grasses and the mistakes you might make, police and carabinieri manage to find you by systematically following those close to you, including parents and relatives. If you decide to play cat and mouse with them on this issue, you will certainly end up in jail in a short time. Is living in hiding useful? I think it is. In these times of war, the system wants to impose globalization and one way of thinking on everyone. Repression is growing, as well as the militarization of the entire world. The U.S. empire intends to wage war on all those who, in one way or another, oppose its policy of dominion. The military budget grew 70% in 6 years during Clinton's presidency. The EU is following in the same direction and has created an army specialized in military operations in order to defend the interests of the European multinationals, including arms dealers that will compel countries to purchase a huge amount of arms. The U.S. are the main agents of this dynamic, as they know they won't otherwise be able to face their serious economic problems and national debts. Of course, they are not willing to pay for their economic crisis, and are pushing other countries into a paranoid union held together by the fear that a big front against their worldwide hegemony could be created in the Third World. See the post-September 11th situation. Let's bear in mind that the Western countries' main goal is to create an unstable and explosive situation in order to justify NATO military interventions and destroy any strong state that they can't manipulate. Individuals and peoples who don't submit to the orders of the International Monetary Fund and the CIA will end up in trouble. It is obvious that the strategy for World War has already begun. The USA, backed by the NATO, have come into action in various areas, which is fundamental in the strategy as it represents Washington's military supremacy over its allies. In this context, repression is getting stronger, with the full approval of both the left and right-wing political parties, which both win elections, also thanks to media campaigns carried out by the 4 media agencies that control international politics. The information they spread is already a declaration of war, and it is impossible to be neutral. Their information is a lie, and they present repressive laws as an absolute necessity. When I read the press, watch TV, or listen to the radio, I can't understand anything of what is happening, and this is very dangerous. The state has acquired new penal codes and new repressive means that match the reality that the system wants to fight. In Spain, for example, the new penal code doesn't consider the terrorism of the state, but only that which strikes the state, be it buildings or people. At the same time, an impressive number of arrests are inflicted on those who demonstrate, even peacefully, and quite heavy sentences are meted out. For example, 10 years imprisonment for burning rubbish skips, like the latest laws concerning teenagers' offenses approved in the Basque countries. Repression is therefore focusing on groups and individuals that represent rebellion against the system in general. The message of the powerful is clear. Put up with it, or you'll end up in prison, if not dead, in the worst conditions of isolation. Given that the struggle in the streets is losing its strength, we will eventually have no choice but to live in hiding and organize in small affinity groups. Finally, I tell you, I only ever felt really free when I was in hiding.